Hello and welcome to Original Soundchat, where video game music is a work of art. On each episode, it's our goal to help you learn about 2 soundtracks from the world of games, as well as the people, stories, and critical tracks behind them. My name is DeVader.
And I'm Peter Spezia. We're brought to you by Anonymous Dinosaur and Rhymes with Asia. It's time to appreciate great OSTs and the games that they come from, without getting too bogged down in music theory. Joe, what are this week's games?
Up first is 2006's Dead Rising, the Dawn of the Dead-inspired action game where the player is set loose in a mall filled to the brim with squishy zombies, where anything you can pick up could potentially be a weapon.
Following that is the kart racer that hit Nintendo's Blue Ocean, bringing motion controls with a plastic wheel peripheral, 12-player races, and the inclusion of bikes. 2008's Mario Kart Wii. I guess there are zombies in both games. I mean, Dead Rising, full of zombies. Mario Kart Wii introduced Dry Bowser. So those are comparable, right?
Yeah, technically undead is a very large umbrella.
But first and foremost, they have malls. Be they Willamette or Coconut, malls. Let's go to the mall this week.
We're going all the way down to the mall. We're going to buy us a Mega Buster and coconuts? I don't know what they'd sell at a Donkey Kong. Why does Donkey Kong own a mall? Anyways,
Is it even Donkey Kong themed? I never got the impression that, you'd think coconut tropical, but I never thought it was Donkey Kong specifically. Maybe a golden mushroom. Maybe that'll help among the items. I don't know. Joe, how are you doing? What are you playing?
I am now smack dab in the middle of Case 2-5 of Great Ace Attorney Chronicles.
Oh boy.
And things are happening. It did a fake out as well, which is really funny, of a very specific twist. Though, I've also been playing a lot of Disco Elysium. My review went up last week of the Switch version. It has some technical issues, but those are being fixed in a patch soon. It's really good and stressful. And I very much like it. I'm gonna go back to it after I've finished Great Ace Attorney, maybe after I've finished Metroid Dread 2, because I haven't started that either, despite buying it. It's sitting behind me right now. I haven't touched it yet.
Go check out your Disco Elysium review at Nintendo World Report. It was a good one. I enjoyed it.
Thank you.
I'm glad you had a good time with it, tech issues aside. I finally got off the schneid and beat Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. Woo. Not only that, got 100% on the save file.
Nice.
There are still some super special collectibles that they don't really mark on the map, so I have a few, probably several trophies still left to go. If I really want the platinum, it's not a difficult platinum, so maybe another play session will help fix those, but I had a really good time with it. In a year of games that don't necessarily justify the next generation console, that's one of them. So that's a nice one to play. And of course, a great soundtrack. Mark Mothersbaugh. I mean, wow, amazing.
Yet another edition. So many contenders.
Yeah, I think it might crack the top 10.
I'm genuinely afraid of the next 2 months.
Me too. It's going to be a lot of extra research work. And while I did not continue Great Ace Attorney Chronicles, I still have to get to starting Case 2-3. I did start that there, Metroid Dread. I got to, there's a shuttle early on. What is it called? Got to the Dairon shuttle. Really early. Still a lot to experience. Still haven't gotten that Morph Ball. That happens real late compared to other games, and it's a little frustrating to go past designs like clearly Morph Ball is meant for that, but not yet. So that's interesting. It's a legit Game of the Year contender, and that's actually amazing.
Yeah, so I've heard. We have a friend, being Matt, who currently thinks it might be higher on the tier list than Super Metroid, and that's high praise.
He's not the only one I've seen think that, and that's remarkable. It should be a good end of the year for games. No composer follow-up news this week. Let's get right into the games. Joe, it's time to get into a mall and kill some zombies.
Yeah, let's enter Dead Rising, which is, the more I look at it, a terrible title. The original Dead Rising released exclusively for the Xbox 360 on August 8th, 2006 in North America, September 8th in Europe, September 14th in Australia, and September 28th in Japan. I had forgotten that this game was a straight-up console exclusive, because I didn't have a 360, but I watched people play this game a lot when it first came out, and it stayed a 360 exclusive for a full decade, technically. There's another version of the game that we'll talk about farther down that could potentially count. I don't know. It's weird. Like, it has its own Wikipedia article and everything. It's odd. But the point is, it released on PC, PS4, and Xbox One on September 13th, 2016. If you want to play Dead Rising, that's the way to go. That's where you should go to play it. It was developed and published by Capcom. Dead Rising is an action game where the player takes control of Frank West, a news photographer who has in fact covered wars, you know, a line he says, and people have attached very fast. Prior to the game's beginning, Frank learns that the town of Willamette, Colorado, has been mysteriously put under military quarantine, and therefore he smells a story brewing. So he hires a helicopter pilot to fly him into Willamette, and after witnessing several violent acts from the air, has the pilot drop him off on top of the town's shopping mall, instructing the pilot to return and pick him up in 3 days. And it turns out the reason that Willamette is under quarantine is because they are currently experiencing a zombie outbreak, with the bulk of survivors in the town taking refuge in the mall, when a terrible old lady lets the zombies in one of the most frustrating scenes to watch on Earth. What few survivors are left after this make their way to the security room. Frank takes it upon himself to search the mall and find other survivors to bring into safety, while conveniently also being able to take plenty of pictures in the hope that he'll be able to blow this whole thing wide open when it's all over. Gameplay in Dead Rising is really simple. You control Frank from a third-person perspective, and you pretty much have free reign over the mall. Various items, according to Wikipedia, over 250 items, can be picked up in the various stores and stalls, and you can use them as weapons. Some of them are very strong, like, say, a chainsaw, guns, baseball bats, things like that. Others are completely pointless and just there as a joke, such as a giant plush bear, or my personal favorite, a Mega Buster that shoots tennis balls. It's great. These weapons have limited durability, though, and they will break and be discarded after a certain amount of use. Think Breath of the Wild, but they at least last longer than that, I think. So, Frank can also use food to regain his health, and he can also change into any clothes that he finds in the stores, which is the best part of Dead Rising, is putting Frank in the most ridiculous costume and then going to find like a tricycle and riding through the zombie crowds. It's great. So the mall is full, and I mean full of zombies. Crowds of them. Hundreds upon hundreds of zombies. And Frank can level up by killing a certain amount of zombies in order to earn PP, which I don't actually know what that stands for. PowerPoints, probably?
Probably.
That's what it stands for in Pokemon, so let's just say that. And this can increase his running speed, his attack power, the amount of stuff he can hold in his inventory, his maximum health, etc., etc. Frank will also periodically encounter psychopaths, people who have been driven insane by the trauma of the outbreak, and serve as Dead Rising's boss fights, which are the big memorable moments in terms of gameplay that isn't just plowing through zombies. Throughout the whole thing, though, there is a persistently passing time mechanic, with certain events only able to be encountered at certain times on a certain day. This includes both survivor and psychopath encounters, as well as story-critical sequences. This is one of Dead Rising's most not great mechanic, because if you miss a story sequence, if you're not there in time, then you enter a no-hope scenario where it shows the calendar and everything turns red and you can't do anything anymore. So you might as well either start over or go back to your save point, obviously. But the point is you can't see any more of the story at that point. There are 6 endings. 5 of them are just the bad endings. The bad endings of, did you do this and make it to the helipad to get picked up? Did you do this and then not make it to the helipad to get picked up? Did you do neither of those things? And each one has a subtle change. I should also mention that the passing time also affects the zombies because they get way stronger and more aggressive at night, which is really fun. So the questions become, can Frank and the other survivors of Willamette survive the 3 days before Frank's helicopter pilot returns for his extraction? What caused the outbreak of the undead? And what role do the mysterious Isabella and Carlito Keys play in the whole thing? Peter, this is where I ask, what are your experiences with Dead Rising?
I think it's a fantastic premise. It's super simple to distill down. I mean, kind of like I did right at the top of the segment. Zombies in a mall. You got the mall, kill the zombies. Like, basic, simple. And then it's also a good example of how I mean, not, comparable necessarily like to Dead Space, right? But like learning the wrong lessons in sequels.
Oh, yeah.
And like leaning hard on those wrong lessons. Like you look at Dead Rising 2 and it's like, okay, different protagonist, but still a similar mall, zombie vibe, maybe just a little more serious. And then you get to Dead Rising 3 and 4, and it's just like, no, I get you like the idea of an open world, but no, make the mall bigger, if anything. So I have not played Dead Rising. I've watched some Let's Plays of it, though. Not enough to know like stories and all that, but just to get the gist. I am interested to learn about the soundtrack, though, that's for sure.
I love Dead Rising. I didn't get to play it for the first time until it came out on PS4 because I've never owned an Xbox. Well, up until like last year, I'd never owned an Xbox, so I had no way of playing it. But the game's great. It's great. And also, yeah, I agree of the whole like learning the wrong lessons in sequels. It's also another one of the casualties of, because this game was produced by Keiji Inafune.
Mm-hmm.
And it was one of the casualties of Inafune's push to farm out all of Capcom's properties to Western developers. And that didn't go great. That did not go great at all. This franchise has had a rough go of it. And I am not, for reasons we'll get into later, I'm not 100% sure we're ever going to see another Dead Rising game. And that's kind of a bummer because, like you said, the premise is fantastic. And I think they could make a really good game out of it. But they just haven't in the 10, 15 years since this one came out. But let's talk about the process of making this game exist. So as you would expect, the game setting of a mall was heavily inspired by George Romero's Dawn of the Dead, the original, not the remake, which only partially takes place in a mall. In fact, that scenario was so similar that questions of whether or not they were violating copyright law began to surface. And boy, we'll talk about that in a little bit, though Capcom stated that the idea of zombies in a mall was a, quote, wholly unprotectable idea. So the initial plan for Dead Rising, which I'm so glad they did not go with, Capcom wanted it to have a similar tone to that of Resident Evil, their other zombie game. I think that would have been terrible. In fact, we could point to an exact way of knowing that would have been terrible. It's Dead Rising 3. So they decided that they wanted to lean more into a comical approach with the zombies, especially in regards to how the player can interact with them. If you want to pick up a cash register and just bash a zombie's head in with it, hey, yeah, more power to you. What if you want to like take a Servbot head from Mega Man Legends and just slap it on the head of a zombie, changing nothing except for the fact that now they can't see. Yeah, you do you. And I think that was the best solution they could have possibly come up with. It sets it apart from so many other zombie games that were on the market. And there were a lot of zombie games on the market back then. They're still a very popular trope, but hey, kids, if you don't know, it used to be so much worse, guys. The other major focus that they put into this game, the most important thing, I would say, is that they wanted to make sure that there could be as many zombies as humanly possible on screen at once. This was their way of trying to make sure that it really did feel like you were in the middle of a major outbreak. EGM, at the time that this game came out, Electronic Gaming Monthly, claimed that there could be up to 800 zombies at one time. Though I couldn't find an explicit confirmation of this or any number, so we're just going to go with 800 zombies. I don't think that means 800 zombies on screen, mind you. Because no, 360 was not going to do that. But like 800 zombies in the area. And that, I could believe that. That makes sense to me. So Dead Rising reviewed pretty well upon release. It has an 85 on Metacritic. Most of the praise was given to the gameplay, which made mowing through fields of zombies a lot of fun and interesting. I mean, you can go pick up a katana and just go crazy. Though there were two major criticisms the game received, being that the story progression is very unforgiving. Like I said earlier, if you miss it, you're just screwed. You're done. The game, it doesn't even drop you into a game over state. You're just done. And also they criticized the survivor AI.
Yeah.
The survivors in Dead Rising very much want to die, and they will throw themselves into a horde of zombies without a second thought. Their pathfinding is terrible. Man. But there was a third criticism that did not just come from publications, but from everyone. See, Dead Rising was developed to work very well on brand new HD televisions, and it was essentially only optimized to work on said brand new HD TVs. Well, unfortunately, this meant that if you were playing on an SD TV, like most people in 2006, the text on screen was so small, it was basically unreadable. And I remember hearing about this back in the day when it first came out. This is like the most famous criticism of the first Dead Rising. They were so widespread that Microsoft had to step in and make a statement responding to the criticisms, being, quote, "Dear everyone, I have heard your concerns and passed them to every source within Capcom possible. I feel your pain, as I, myself, have a large SD TV and am having trouble reading the mission objectives, item names, etc. Unfortunately, it does take time to resolve any issues, and we would want to fix the issue appropriately, as any changes to any game can create additional problems from the result of change. That's just how game programming works, and that's why games go through extensive game testing programs and approvals." Which, yes, that is correct. Changing anything, even the font size in a game, could lead to wildly unknown things. Except a week later, Capcom put out their own statement, essentially saying, "No, we're not going to fix it." And they suggested DIY solutions to resolve the issue, according to Wikipedia. I don't know what those were, but I choose to believe they were tape a magnifying glass to the bottom of your TV. So, yeah, that's the most famous, huge problem Dead Rising had when it came out. And it's one of the things that people still talk about today as a sort of, what the hell was wrong with you guys? Why would you do this? Anyways, Dead Rising did win some awards, though. IGN called it the most innovative design for Xbox 360 of 2006. GameSpot gave it Best Action Adventure Game, Best Sound Effects, and Best Use of Xbox 360 Achievement Points. I don't know what that last one means.
Game Awards were weird.
I guess you could use your points for something.
Or maybe just best trophies, achievements, like the design there, but it's still a weird award.
Yeah, very weirdly specific award. It won Game of the Year at the 2006 Spike TV Video Game Awards, and X-Play gave it Best Original Game. All of this is surprising. I didn't know it won Game of the Year.
Yeah, no kidding.
That's odd. I love the game, but that's weird. Where would a zombie game be without controversy, though? And this game had its great share of controversy. For instance, due to the level of violent content in the game, it was actually banned in Germany. As in, the police confiscated all copies in the country, and if a store was caught selling Dead Rising, they were subject to fines and penalties. That in Australia. How did Australia not have that problem? And Germany did.
Yeah.
Also, hey, do you remember when I talked about how the game's premise is very similar to that of the film Dawn of the Dead? Well, MKR, the copyright holders for Dawn of the Dead, both of them, obviously thought so as well, and sued Capcom in 2008 over potential copyright infringement. They did not win this lawsuit. A judge actually dismissed the lawsuit after claiming that MKR had failed to demonstrate anything outright infringing in Dead Rising, after which the lawsuit was fully dismissed because you guys don't get to own the idea of zombies in malls. That's not a thing you get to do.
Gosh, I hope it was dismissed with prejudice. That's ridiculous.
As for legacy, though, as you mentioned, Dead Rising has had a rough time. Dead Rising was ported to the Wii.
What?
In 2009, titled Dead Rising Chop Till You Drop.
Oh my gosh.
This version is not well loved. It lowers the amount of zombies that could be on screen at once, because, the Wii. And it also, most bafflingly of all, removed the photography mechanic.
Oh, boo.
Entirely. Might I remind you that you are playing as a photojournalist in this game. So yeah, Chop Till You Drop is not a well-liked version of the game, and nobody talks about it anymore. But Dead Rising has had multiple sequels. Dead Rising 2 released in 2010 for Xbox 360, PS3, and PC. Relatively well received. Not as much as the original, though. Started a new protagonist, like you mentioned, Chuck Green, and added mechanics like weapon combination, which I will admit is actively really fun. Frank was actually included in one of the DLC episodes of Dead Rising 2. And then they released a, quote, reimagining of Dead Rising 2 called Off the Record, which was basically just Dead Rising 2, but now you play as Frank West instead of Chuck Green.
Oh, that's right. They did do that.
Yep. And then it was all downhill from there. 2013 saw the release of Dead Rising 3, which was received about as well as 2 in terms of critical reception. And it still sold fairly well, which I was under the impression that game had been a bomb.
I think it was maybe, if anything, because it was like either at the launch or in the launch window of Xbox One. And it was another like Capcom, let's make another exclusive. Mm-hmm. And it was, open world, brown, gritty, definitely big on like the second screen apps, and not good.
Yeah, not good. And then in 2016, Dead Rising 4, which starred Frank West once again, took place in Willamette again, was reviewed fine, but this one was a bomb because by April of 2017, Dead Rising 4 had failed to sell more than 1 million copies. And Capcom had predicted 2 million. There hasn't been a Dead Rising game since, or any word that there could be one in development. Unfortunately, I think it's very likely we're just not going to see this franchise again for a very long time.
I think they even moved the developers like out of Vancouver and like repurposed them elsewhere. So I think that whole team's like just blown up.
Did they close? They closed that studio. Yeah, no, I forgot about that. Unfortunate. But it's okay because Frank has been allowed to be in good games. 2, Frank is playable in Tatsunoko vs. Capcom Ultimate All-Stars, And there's also a stage in that game based on Willamette Parkview Mall, which is neat and also makes it weird that the zombies are just sort of leaving the fight alone. Frank is also playable in both Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, as well as Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. And I actually didn't know this. He's in Project Cross Zone, where he is paired up with Darkstalker's character, Shenko. Here's another thing that I wasn't aware of. There was a live-action Dead Rising movie in 2015.
Oh.
It's called Dead Rising Watchtower. Frank is the only game character in the movie, and he is played by Rob Riggle.
It's not terrible casting, but it's weird.
I mean, he looks like Frank, and it's not like Frank is supposed to be this super serious character. He's kind of a weirdo, but it was released on Crackle, which is probably why nobody heard about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had no idea there was a film. That's wild. I'm not going to watch it. It apparently takes place between Dead Rising 2 and 3 and is canon, according to Capcom. So, let's talk about one of the composers, at least a little bit. There's not a lot on him once more. His name is Hideki Okugawa. He was born March 28th, 1970 in Osaka Prefecture, Japan. Blood type is A, according to VGMDB. He also has been credited as, all caps, Hideki OK. Hideki.O.K. Hideki space O.K. Just O.K. and Hideki all lowercase. That's a lot of aliases that all basically say the same thing. And apparently, in Capcom circles, he was most well known as the member of the sound team that really pushed for jazz stuff to end up in games, though he did also work a lot in like rock and stuff like that. His discography is pretty impressive, actually. The first game that at least Moby Games says he worked on is Dungeons & Dragons Tower of Doom. He also did music for X-Men Children of the Atom, as well as two of the Darkstalkers games, being Darkstalkers The Night Warriors and Night Warriors Darkstalkers Revenge. Terrible names. Oh my god, Darkstalkers is so hard to say. He also did music for Alien vs. Predator, Mega Man, The Power Battle, Mega Man 2, The Power Fighters, which were the Game Boy ports.
Yeah, that sounds right.
He seemingly did music for every single version of Street Fighter 3, and I'm not going to list them all because there's a lot. He is credited for composing the music for Onimusha 2, Samurai's Destiny, as well as Onimusha 3, Demon Siege, obviously Dead Rising. He is one of the two composers on Apollo Justice Ace Attorney. And he did the music for Resident Evil 5. But as far as I could tell, he hasn't really done anything more recent than RE5. In terms of historical development research of this soundtrack, there, again, isn't much. There's another composer that worked on the game. Her name is Marika Suzuki, but none of her tracks ended up on the Critical 5. I apologize, but she also did work on this game. It also features a bunch of, like, licensed music, almost, but from very not well-known bands, which honestly is kind of cool. An official limited edition release of the soundtrack dropped on March 30th, 2007 in Japan. It came with a t-shirt that featured Frank and Isabella, and it only printed 2,000 copies. And then a non-limited edition that I assume didn't come with the great t-shirt that you definitely want, released on June 20th that same year. Alright, let's talk about the music of this game, because I've flapped my gums, but all you hear is blah, blah, blah. I'm wearing a Sly Cooper shirt. I have to make that reference. Let's talk about critical track number 1, Fly Routine.
We got the fly routine. You wanna
This song was written and performed by the band Hostile Groove. Fun fact, the vocalist you hear singing is the same person behind the metal lyrics of Devil May Cry 3's Devils Never Cry.
Sick.
So that's something I did not know. I learned it from YouTube comments and then had to go confirm for myself, because YouTube is not the greatest source of information. But yeah, seems to be him. This plays during the boss fight with the supermarket psychopath, as some people who have played the game would no doubt immediately recognize if somebody screamed at the top of their lungs, "Get out of my store!" Very memorable to me. This is the first psychopath you'll encounter in the game, and he's also one of the few critical path story important boss fights. He's a guy who has filled a supermarket cart with a bunch of blades and stuff, and also he has a shotgun, I believe. It's hard. It's really hard. But it's very memorable, and I think this song really, really fits super well. It's not my favorite of the boss fight themes, but it is very much one that, this is the tone the boss fight songs go for. I think it fits perfectly, and I still remember this song just because I remember that boss fight very vividly.
Yeah, it's not too often we get to discuss nu metal on this show, but wow, it's mixing metal with rap, or at least it kind of gives that sort of vibe. Very different, and we'll see when it gets to the score how different it is from that.
Yeah, let's do that right away with second track on the Critical 5, Frank West. This song was composed by Hideki Okugawa. This is the theme of the man himself, and most notably, plays in the opening sequence of the game, which I think is one of the best opening sequences of that generation, bar none. It's that, and Last of Us is probably up there too. In that intro, you're flying over Willamette and taking pictures of all the stuff that's happening, and you see somebody yanked off of a car by a group of zombies. You see somebody get tackled by a zombie off of a roof. You see a gas station explode. It's a really, really good intro. And this song, I think, really, really punctuates it really well. It's kind of low key, but it's very it has this feeling of, this is not what you expected to find when you got into the city. Because it looks, from above, it kind of just looks like there's some kind of riot going on. And I don't know, this is my favorite sequence in the game, and so I would be crazy not to put this song on the Critical 5.
I like how the orchestral swell kind of comes in, and it feels almost like a Hollywood movie sort of thing, and I think we see kind of maybe the initial inspiration from Dawn of the Dead. It kind of fits, but yeah, this kind of low-key intro and all that, the underscore to it all, kind of gives me Japanese samurai vibes. The instrumentation is not what I would expect for the character theme of Frank West.
I feel like it's not actually supposed to be Frank West's theme. I don't know what tells me that, because I agree it doesn't fit his character at all. It fits the moment super well, but nah, this song's not Frank West. There is a theme that I explicitly associate with Frank West because of a different game, but we will get to that in a little bit. Before that, we got to talk about Critical Track number 3. It had to be here. It's Mall Music 3. Lest you forget, you are in a mall in this game, and malls have music that play in the shops. And there's like 6 of them in this game specifically. And this is the one I feel like is the most memorable and most well done. Because, yeah, this is mall music. This is music you'd hear in a mall. No doubt about it. And when Willamette was turned into a stage in Tatsunoko vs. Capcom, hey, guess what? This is the song they used in the background of that stage. This is the tone of Dead Rising. This right here, in general. It's running around committing grisly zombie murder while this song plays in the background. It's Dead Rising to a T. This had to be here.
It's interesting how it's Mall Music 3 when you have all these other ones, but yet, yeah, this is the one that stands out perfectly. Like, this is the one I think that if you know any track from Dead Rising, it's this one. I know this one. And I feel like it's because, like, YouTubers or just content creators in general, if you want music, if you want, like, elevator music, this is an easy pull to throw into your video. And so many people have done so. So, yeah, it's the definitive song. You're absolutely right.
It is so Muzak that I really did think that it was going to end up being a royalty-free song that Capcom just used.
Yeah.
Like, I expected that, but no, this was composed by Hideki Okugawa. This is an original piece, which is funny because I don't think malls are really a big thing in Japan. Very, very interesting. But let's get into another one of the most famous tracks in this game, but it's more so famous because it is in other games. Let's talk about Critical Check number 4, Adam, Crazy Clown. Oh man, would you have guessed that a clown dual-wielding chainsaws would be scary? Of course you did, because it is. Literally one of the most memorable boss fights in the entire game. And apparently, I would guess that at least this theme is a favorite of Capcom's, because when Frank West was added in Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, this is the song they rearranged and used as his theme. This boss fight is super memorable because it's by far the most disturbing psychopath in the game, and it's also by far the most disturbing psychopath death in the game. It's a graphic death that I should not have seen in 2006 because I was not old enough to be seeing that. And I think it's memorable for a lot of people because you should fight Adam, because after you beat him, his chainsaws become a, like, pick-upable weapon, and they're the strongest weapon in the game. Like, they can kill bosses with just, like, 2 or 3 slashes. It's insane. But this song, also being so different from, like, Fly Routine, and even the next song we're going to talk about, which is also a boss theme, it's so different with, like, it's got an electronic vibe to it instead of the metal vibe of everything else. And then you have that vocal sample in there, which is like somebody announcing for a game show. I don't know. This song is really interesting, and I am glad that Capcom eventually brought it back as the theme in Marvel.
Super huge vibes to another game. Joe, which game am I thinking of?
Oh, I feel like I should know. Is it Jet Set?
Close. It's The World Ends With You.
Oh, yeah, I could actually hear this being The World Ends With You. Absolutely.
Right? Like with the electronic and the kind of rhythm it's got going on there, and then you get kind of the vocals in there. I could see Jet Set Radio as well, but it's just so interesting how, like, it has, like, what seems to be clear inspiration from those, and yet it works, and for such an important battle.
Yeah, it's really... And he's completely optional, too.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Most of the psychopaths are completely optional. They go away after a certain stretch of time, And you can also just walk away from psychopaths throughout the whole game. You can start the fight and then decide, hey, I'm good, and leave the area, and they'll leave you alone. They'll still be there when you come back, so long as the zombies haven't killed them, which I believe can happen, though probably not with Adam. So him being completely optional, and yet again, one of the most memorable boss fights in the game, really says something. All right, critical track number 5, the final one. It's Kick the Pedal. This song plays during the boss fight with a motorcycle riding Isabella, which is not a fair fight because she can't get knocked off of the motorcycle, but she can sure as hell hit you with it. And I think this is my favorite song in the game, actually. This song rules. It's super, super good. And Isabella is one of the most memorable characters in the game. Obviously, she's the one that got put on the shirt with Frank. And this fight is also up there for memorable moments, but again, mainly because it's not the best. You're like fighting her in this under construction section of the mall, where there's scaffolding and like a fountain and stuff, and she's just driving around in a motorcycle trying to kill you. She might also have a gun. I don't actually remember, but she probably has a gun. But yeah, this song goes really hard, and I really like this song. It's fantastic.
It does go hard. It feels really cool, but it's also a lot because it almost sounds like it's over modulating the guitars a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just sounds like it's too much, if that makes sense. But in an intense fight like that, when she's on a vehicle and you're not, that can feel overwhelming for sure.
Pretty sure after you beat her, then her motorcycle becomes available if you go back to that area.
Well, of course, why not?
Most of the psychopaths, I believe, have something that once you beat them, that thing is now available for when you go back there ever.
Feels very Mega Man-like.
Very much so. So, let's talk about tracks of the cutting room floor. The first one is another of the licensed songs. It is Gone Guru.
My third eye's open, so give me some twist, miss. I'm voting for Pharaoh walking down your street. So I was down with God, I had to get a retreat. Because I go rules who come up out the devil reads in the visionary. Set the animal free from a living swarm. And I elevate your mind like airplane girls. So go rules who come up out.
Early in the game, the Willamette Mall is a really weirdly laid out area because there's a big courtyard that you need to go outside to get to other sections of the mall. And when you go outside, you'll hear this song because in the courtyard there are 3 escaped convicts who are driving a military vehicle with a mounted gun on it and just having the time of their lives. This song was performed by Lifeseeker. It is not on the official soundtrack release, as far as I can tell, which is a little bit odd because Fly Routine is. But yeah, these guys are very memorable because they make trying to go outside hell. They're very hard to kill, and they're in a car, and you are merely a man, probably holding a baseball bat. I do want to give a shout out to one of the lyrics in this song because it sure is a choice for lyrics to put in your song, being, quote, wake up in the morning with a fat cup of piss. I don't like that line, but the rest of the song's pretty good.
It sounds very Kid Rock like.
Oh, yeah, I could hear that.
I hear this song, and being from Michigan and living in Michigan, I'm like, oh, yeah, that's kind of where I feel like I've heard that sort of aesthetic before.
Absolutely. I think you are 100%. For some reason, I want to say Beastie Boys too.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. Not like 100%, but I feel like there's some of that in there as well. Man, these guys are scary. And the last track on the cutting room floor, it's Carlito. We got a song representing Isabella in the Critical 5, so it's only fair that I go ahead and also throw in one for her brother Carlito. This plays during a shootout with Carlito in a food court. It's an interesting moment. I like this song. I think it punctuates it super well because it's very tense with these sort of sudden stings of the rock guitar, almost. And it fits a tense shootout super well. I needed to get something representing Carlito in here, and I think this is a pretty damn good choice.
The back part of the piece where the clip comes from is also really cool. Like they get more of the strings and the orchestration there to kind of add to the epic feel of the showdown. Despite, again, you described the premise, and it seems simple in a weird location, but there's drama here. And I love the way the bass guitar sounds. Like that's rocking, and then you get it, all the punctuation in there, kicking in odds. That's a cool one. Nice pick for cutting room floor.
It's a very, very good song. This soundtrack kind of surprised me with how good it was. I didn't remember most of these songs. Like, obviously, I remembered Mall Music 3.
Yes.
And I remembered Adam and all that. But that's really it. All of this was like a rediscovery for me because I've never played all the way through Dead Rising. Again, I didn't get to play Dead Rising until it came out on PS4. And I never beat it because I think it came out in the middle of a bunch of stuff in 2016. So, yeah, there's that. So what will I never forget about Dead Rising? It's just a fun premise. It's a fun game. And it makes me sad that none of the others, realized why it was good. And I don't even know if I could put it to words why the first Dead Rising is good and the rest are just sort of there. But, you can feel it in your heart when you look at this franchise and the direction it went. And I don't know, it's just really fun to know where you could get a katana easily and then jump into a group of zombies and pretend to be a samurai or, shoot tennis balls at zombies. Though I think there are 3 unlockable post-game weapons you can get. One is Mega Man X's armor. I know that for sure. I believe one of them is an actual working lightsaber from Mega Man X, Zero's saber. And then there's also an actual for real Mega Buster that shoots actual for real Mega Buster rounds. I would like to beat it, though the end game of Dead Rising, I have gathered, is really, really, really hard. So I guess we'll see. I'm thinking about streaming it sometime this month. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. I don't know. I have to step up in Matt's absence next week at time of release, so maybe you'll see Dead Rising on twitch.tv/Nintendo World Report.
I feel like rediscovering that Mall Music 3 track was the delight of oh yeah, this track is from this game and that's where it is from, and I've heard it before and all that. But what will I never forget? It's the simple elevator pitch and not taking itself too seriously. And I think both of those things just got muddied over time.
Yeah, they sure did. Also, when I think about Dead Rising as a franchise, I just think about when Matt played the first couple hours of Dead Rising 2. And in that game, a zombie outbreak happens in the city and everybody goes into a safe room. And at that point in the canon, there is a drug called Zombrex that you take every day to keep yourself from succumbing to the thing that turns people into zombies. And there's no Zombrex in the safe room. And to this day, when you bring up Dead Rising in Matt's presence, he will shout, "Why is there no Zombrex in the safe room?" Which warms my heart just a little bit. Also, Frank is really fun to play in all the fighting games that he's in.
Oh, yeah.
Especially Tatsunoko vs. Capcom, where he can, summon a zombie in a shopping cart to fly past him. It's great. Anyways, for the transition over to the next game, we like to cover a fan remix, fan cover, etc., etc. Hey, there aren't any for this game. That kind of surprises me a little bit. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to put in the rearrangement of Adam that was used in Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 because it's such a good rearrangement of this song. Enjoy that. We will be right back.
Well, we go from talking about malls and zombies to a zombie Bowser racing through a mall as one of the different tracks in Mario Kart Wii. See, we made it there in the end. Not the first time we've talked about Mario Kart on the show. On episode 81, we discussed Mario Kart 8. So, that and Deluxe and all that good stuff. I was paired with Thumper, if I remember correctly. That was a good pairing.
It was an interesting pairing, yeah. I think that's one of my favorite episodes we've done in general.
It was a good episode. I think at some point we're going to have to sit down and figure out what our choice episodes are, but that one may be up there. So, what came before Mario Kart 8 on consoles? Because you had Mario Kart 7 before it on 3DS, but Mario Kart Wii released April 10th, 2008 in Japan for Nintendo Wii. Funny enough, a game with Wii in the title got released on Wii. This is actually one of the few games for the time where all of the releases in the major regions of the world actually released all in the same month. So, Europe got the game on April 11th, 2008, the next day, Australia on the 24th, and North America on April 27th. Mario Kart Wii is developed by Nintendo EAD and published by Nintendo. It is the king of all kart racers, Mario Kart. You have up to 12 players in a race. You collect items on hazard-filled tracks that try to even the odds. There are characters across the Mario universe with various karts and bikes that have different vehicle statistics. In fact, the 12-player racing and the bikes were new additions to the franchise with this game in particular, as well as motion controls and performing tricks off of jumps or boosts and things like that. What's the plot to Mario Kart Wii? I don't know, you race, you win the cups, you play with your friends, you have fun.
Victory!
When you can and you're not being screwed over by rubber banding AI and unbalanced items. Anyway, Joe, here's where I'll ask you, what are our experiences with Mario Kart Wii?
I've played very little of this one. In fact, upon getting ready to record this episode, I thought back and I think Mario Kart 8 might be the only Mario Kart I've had a significant amount of experience with. I played this a couple of times because while we did not own it in my household, the neighbors did. So I think that of the Mario Kart games, it's got the best playable roster. Because, it has one character that should have come back in 8, but didn't. Nintendo.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a huge amount of experience with this one, actually.
I played this quite a lot because the Wii was the first system that I owned, at least for a home console. And so I played this one. I enjoyed it. And then I was humbled when I went online and faced people who were much better than me. In fact, our friend Matt, as you've referenced, was one such person who thoroughly destroyed me at Mario Kart Wii, so much so that I put down the game and I've never played it since. So go check out Smasherpieces and appreciate his supremacy at Nintendo games, I guess.
Oh my god, that's awesome. I didn't know about that.
So that's generally what I'll relate to with Mario Kart Wii. But no, it's a fun one. I feel like they've only gotten better since. 7 is great, and then 8 8 Deluxe. Like, that's so far the pinnacle. We'll see if a future sequel can top that. But it was good for the time. And it was especially, an early game in the Wii's life to try out Nintendo Wi-Fi connection on a console, on the big SD TV, I guess. But no, it was a fun one at the time. But I just don't know if it's held up so well over time because of all the improvements since.
I have the same problem with like Mario Kart 64. So many people love Mario Kart 64. And every time I go to play it, I'm just like, feels not good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I'm used to playing 8. They all feel a little bit worse because 8 is just that good.
Yes, yeah, exactly. I would have a tough time going back to 64, and oh my gosh, I'm forbid for Super Mario Kart as well. Like, it's just, the technology and the smoothness of the gameplay, they've just really refined it to like the perfect racing pitch. So, Mario Kart Wii. It is the 6th Mario Kart game in the series. There are 16 new tracks in the game, in the Mushroom, Flower, Star, and Special Cups, and then 16 more tracks that are graphically updated tracks from previous games. And these are in the Shell, Banana, Leaf, and Lightning Cups. Of course, coming from the Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64, Game Boy Advance, GameCube, and DS Mario Kart games. And that overall then, of course, makes 32 tracks. There are 12 starting characters, and then you get up to 26 after all characters have been unlocked. New racers in this game include Baby Peach, Baby Daisy, of course, then coming from Double Dash, they're like, more babies! Mario Kart 8, Baby Rosalina!
Yeah!
Just put in all the babies, because Rosalina was coming off of her appearance in Super Mario Galaxy, so put Rosalina into Mario Kart Wii. And Funky Kong. Yes, Funky Kong.
How was he not in 8? Hey, Nintendo? How was Funky Kong not in Mario Kart 8?
Because then they would have had to put the Funky Mode little corner tag on the box art.
Yeah, that's a sales ad.
Exactly, right? And then, as we mentioned, Dry Bowser is also a new racer in this game. Zombie Skeletal Bowser. Characters that appeared in this game, but then in no future Mario Kart games since: Birdo, Diddy Kong, and Funky Kong. Something must have happened with the Kongs. That's a shame.
Diddy Kong is also one of those, like, why is he not in... Link got into Mario Kart 8 before Diddy Kong did.
Yeah, and it's not like we're having big problems with Rare for Diddy Kong, right? Like, I don't think that should be an issue. He's in the Donkey Kong Country Returns games. Okay. Though I guess Funky Kong is technically 2 in a cameo sort of appearance. It must be difficult to navigate the intellectual property rights.
I believe everything attached to Donkey Kong Nintendo owns 100%.
Okay.
So Diddy Kong, Funky, Dixie, all them, they own all of those characters 100%.
What the heck then? That's so strange.
There's no actual excuse. They just did my boy Diddy and my other boy Funky bad.
There are also 2 Mii costumes that are available to unlock. The second of which includes unlocking it via one of the following criteria. You could either unlock all 32 expert staff ghost data records in time trials. You could play 5,100 combined races and battles, or win 5,000 Wi-Fi connection ghost races.
That's a lot of races.
So yeah, I didn't unlock that one. I did not unlock Mii Costume B. But yeah, that is like the last unlockable character. Because of the inclusion of bikes in the game, Mario Kart Wii was briefly known internally under the name Mario Kart X before its final name was decided upon. Apparently the X referring to the word extreme. And this was also apparently decided a year before Super Smash Bros. Brawl was announced. I'll remind you, or let you know in case you don't know, Super Smash Bros. Brawl in Japan, Dairanto Smash Bros. X. So Super Smash Bros. X in Japan, much like Smash Bros. Ultimate is Smash Bros. Special in Japan. So apparently had Satoru Iwata known that Mario Kart X was the working title at the time, he says he may have steered Sakurai away from that name, but turns out it didn't really matter. Producer Hideki Kono had proposed the idea of including bikes since the GameCube game Double Dash, out of his passion for extreme sports, but he was rejected due to the seemingly bizarre image of Mario riding a bike. Apparently, the team couldn't really envision that at the time. The concept of extreme sports elements was also considered in Mario Kart DS, but due to the difficulty of including this concept in a handheld game, especially the DS at the time could only do so much, it wasn't able to be implemented until the Wii version. And of course, it being on Wii, it supported a whole bunch of controllers. A plastic Wii wheel is included in most Mario Kart Wii packages, though the game is still compatible with other controllers like just a Wii Remote held sideways. There's of course the Wii Remote nunchuck combo, the GameCube controller that you could plug into the top of the Wii, the Classic controller, and the Classic Controller Pro. When it comes to that Wii wheel, though, the designers tested roughly 30 different prototypes with different shapes, colors, and weights that were all based on real-life go-karts. The final design for the wheel was made to be as lightweight as possible, and that makes sense to kind of suit long-term periods of gameplay, and it was made entirely white. Despite there was some experimentation with two-color designs to fit what they were doing with like the Wii Zapper and the Wii Balance Board to kind of add a little bit of gray in there. But then they added a blue ring with the Wii logo inside of it, and it was also placed on the backside of the wheel. And that apparently was the reason to give spectating players something interesting to look at. But as a result, this blue ring ended up being featured in the game's logo. Mario Kart Wii was revealed at E3 2007. A spring 2008 release date would be announced later that fall. This was also the time when you're playing games on Nintendo Wii and there's the idea of channels. And if you don't remember Nintendo Wii, oh my gosh, I feel so old. But
oh boy.
You go to that home menu screen, it's a bunch of little TV screens, little TV channels, little apps that you could open on the Wii. And so Mario Kart Channel was one of these that you could download from the eShop. You didn't need the Mario Kart disc. It's an optional Wii application that it presented current regional or worldwide rankings for time trials, as well as the option of sending or receiving ghost data via the Wii Connect 24 service. Basically, Wii's way of receiving messages or small updates. You couldn't do patches on Wii. Let's remember that.
Nope. Sure couldn't.
Could not do game patches, but you could get these small little things. The channel also featured 2 worldwide tournaments each month from Nintendo, which featured modified courses that sometimes had special objectives. Now, I found this interesting. Since the discontinuation of Nintendo Wi-Fi connection on May 20th, 2014, users who modified their Wii or Wii U have really kept the Mario Kart Wii online community going through their own private servers. There's like up to 200 community-created new tracks. In fact, one of the most popular mods even added 200cc mode to kind of emulate what was happening in Mario Kart 8, and up to 24 racers. As recently as August 2021, there's reported like 3,000 daily players playing like a modified Mario Kart Wii on custom servers.
That's a lot of people playing on a homebrew server. Damn.
Right? Like it's wild to think that that is so active as it is. One last trivia bit, I promise, because I was reading the Iwata Asks and, thinking of Satoru Iwata and just like, oh, it was real nice when you had these features for these Nintendo games to highlight different aspects. And at the end of the interview feature for Iwata Asks, the team joked about the concept of Chabudai Gaeshi, which I guess Nintendo kind of translated it as better known as upending the tea table, a reference to the classic Japanese comic and animated series Hoshi of the Giants. The father in the series once upended the tea table while the family was eating a meal. Shigeru Miyamoto's working style has been compared to this because of his tendency to make last-minute suggestions that leave everyone else scrambling to implement them before the deadline. I think it was Kono mentioned, like at the end of the interview, it's like, hey, have we mentioned Shabuda Gaeshi on here? Yeah, and they had to describe it, and they're like, no, fortunately, that really didn't happen with this game, but they had to like take a whole time set aside in this interview to like mention like, oh yeah, this is a thing. This has happened sometimes.
I didn't know it was something that is referencing an actual piece of media. I thought it was just because like table flip.
Yeah.
That's a really famous emote. Like a really famous Japanese emoticon, throwing the table over. I didn't know that's neat. Interesting. I didn't expect to learn that today.
Yeah. See, you learn new things on Original Soundchat. And this is in 2008 when they're having this interview. So yeah, we now know table flip, but interesting that they translate it as upending the tea table. Chabudai Gaeshi. Mario Kart Wii reviewed fairly well with a Metacritic average of 82. There was praise for the online mode, the characters, the gameplay, the tracks, and the carts, though there was criticism for its item balancing, the rubber band AI, and comparably weak graphics and music. Again, this is at the time where HD TVs are starting to come into play in 2008, as you kind of referenced with 2006 and Dead Rising and all that. So they're looking at it and it's like, it's nice for Wii, but I mean, compared to these HD systems, you see it's struggling. And as far as the music goes, like, we'll talk about it. I think it's a fun, fine soundtrack. It's not as good as Mario Kart 8, say, for example, but I think it's really nice and fun for the time.
Mario Kart 8 is just a high bar, like a really, really, really high bar.
Yeah, all the live recorded instruments and everything. That's for sure. I think, like I said at the top, while it's seen as a fun game at the time, especially it's a must for multiplayer parties, right? The improvements that have been made in sequels make it really tough to look back in retrospect. And there was a 2017 series rankings, like where do you rank all the Mario Karts, over at Games Radar, where they described Mario Kart Wii as, quote, a bloated populist mess attempting to please everyone that feels like the most Mario Kart rather than the best Mario Kart. And as a result, it's as if it's missing the series' soul. I think that's brutal, but not wrong.
Yeah, I could see that. I don't know how you come to that conclusion when the thing is like, there's more new characters in this one that they've never came back. I don't know, it's weird, but I can sort of see where they're coming from, I guess.
I think they put it like second to last out of all the games, like only in front of the canceled Virtual Boy one. And it's like, that's really harsh, but...
Oh, so they're going to say it's worse than Super Mario Kart for the SNES? Somebody hasn't played that game.
Someone wanted hot take. Oh, wait. Never mind. The game sold 300,000 copies in Japan alone on launch day, and it would pass 1 million sold in less than a month. In about a year since the game's launch, 15.4 million copies of Mario Kart Wii had been sold worldwide, with 37.38 million copies sold worldwide because Mario Kart's got legs, and this stat is as of March 31st, 2021. Mario Kart Wii is the best-selling Mario game for the Wii, the second best-selling racing game ever, behind its sequel, Mario Kart 8, and the second best-selling game for the Wii, behind Wii Sports.
Damn. Also, you can't say that Wii Sports was the highest-selling game on the Wii. It came with the Wii!
Came with a lot of copies of the Wii, but I think there was some where like they phased it out, right? But I don't know.
Maybe, but it's still just like, yeah, of course it's one of the best-selling games on the Wii. It came with it.
It still gets included in like best-selling games of all time, and I feel like it's a little disingenuous. I don't know. Mario Kart Wii was nominated for 2 BAFTAs for gameplay and multiplayer, but it lost to Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare and Left 4 Dead, respectively. It was nominated for Racing Game of the Year by the Academy of Interactive Arts and Sciences. We now know these as the DICE Awards, and it lost to Burnout Paradise. This same result happened when Mario Kart Wii was nominated for Best Driving Game at the Spike Video Game Awards. Again, lost to Burnout Paradise. IGN awarded the game with Best Racing Game and Best Online Multiplayer Game, and it also won for Favorite Video Game at the 2010 Kids' Choice Awards.
What?
Maybe because the legs carried so well for Mario Kart Wii, they're like, kids, what's your favorite game 2 years after it came out? Mario Kart Wii! Oh, okay.
That's baffling. What the hell?
Kids' choices. Baffling. Yes.
This is somehow Amanda Bynes' fault. I don't know how, but it's somehow.
Gotta be. What's the legacy for Mario Kart Wii? Well, you had the sequel, Mario Kart 7, that made its way back to handheld on 3DS in 2011, and that sold almost 19 million copies. But then as far as a Mario Kart on console, you'd have to wait for Mario Kart 8, which sold on Wii U in 2014. Between that version and 2017's deluxe version on Nintendo Switch, Mario Kart 8 has sold more than 45 million copies.
Oh, all right. Yeah, that's a lot.
It's a whole lot in terms of video games. Like, we're talking top 10 all-time game sales. It's bonkers. I think Mario Kart 8 and deluxe, like number 6. It's wild. The composer this week that we'll talk about for Mario Kart Wii is Asuka Ohta. And we've talked before on the show how whether it's Asuka Ohta or Asuka Hayazaki, names that we feel like we consistently bring up as far as Nintendo games go. But we thought we'd always covered her on the show. Nope, have not covered Asuka Ohta.
Every time I see her name, I'm like, we've talked about her. What do you mean what? And that's happened so many times to me now.
So let's talk about Asuka Ohta. Well, let's clarify. Ohta is her maiden name. So at a certain point, she's credited as Asuka Ohta. But these days, she is credited as Asuka Hayazaki, which, her married name. No birth info available, not too surprising for some of these Nintendo composers. They do seem to keep a pretty low profile. But there was an interview with her, just after she got hired in 2005, translate the Japanese site into English. So there was some information there, such as the fact that she studied piano at an early age, and she loved Mario since she was little. She didn't know that there was something called a soundtrack at the time for a game, but she liked Mario's music so much that she connected a radio cassette player to a TV and recorded it.
Yeah.
And then she went to university for classical music composition, but in her spare time at university, she also arranged for different bands and also kind of dabbled in some techno music. She's been employed at Nintendo since April 2003, and her first project working at Nintendo was alongside the Mario Music Man himself, Koji Kondo.
Oh, that's awesome. I love it when those are the stories where it's like, I really liked this thing. And then now I do it.
And also, I idolized your music growing up, and now I work with you.
It's so cool.
So neat. So let's talk about her discography while working at Nintendo. That first project was The Legend of Zelda 4 Swords Adventures. She then would compose music for Yoshi Touch and Go, New Super Mario Bros., The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess, which is probably the last time we mentioned... No, it wasn't. Oh, it wasn't the last time, because we mentioned 2 of her games in one episode. So it was Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess, then Mario Kart Wii, Wii Fit Plus, The Legend of Zelda Spirit Tracks, Nintendogs Plus Cats, Super Mario 3D Land, Pikmin 3, The Legend of Zelda The Wind Waker HD, Super Mario Maker, Star Fox Guard, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Splatoon 2, specifically the 4.0 update of Splatoon 2, and the other game we paired with Twilight Princess, Ring Fit Adventure.
This is a long time coming, this reckoning.
Yes, Asuka Ohta, Asuka Hayazaki. I feel like both games had different names recognized on it because of 2006 and 2019. So there you go. She has arranged a couple tracks in Super Smash Bros., and we do like to highlight when that happens. In Brawl, she arranged the Flower Field theme from Yoshi Touch and Go, which was actually also her composition, but she gave it a kind of arrangement facelift for Brawl. And then in Smash for Wii U, she arranged On It Theme, Winter's Theme from Earthbound. So, the historical development research. The game's music is composed by Asuka Ohta and Ryo Nagamatsu, who we mentioned in our Super Mario Galaxy episode 86, though that was a weird one because he did music in Mario Galaxy 2, not the original Mario Galaxy. But if you want info on Ryo Nagamatsu, episode 86, that's the one to look at with Super Mario Galaxy. When they composed music for Mario Kart Wii, though, they used both new interpretations of the familiar melodies from earlier games in the series, along with original material. So that makes sense. You're arranging or kind of giving a sort of facelift to these classic tracks and their themes, but then also you have new tracks as well. This was a Nintendo game where an official soundtrack was released. It was a 43-track official soundtrack, a CD, released on December 2011 as a Club Nintendo reward in Japan.
Are always a Club Nintendo reward, every single one of them.
And these Japan-only ones, I swear. It's like Mario Kart Wii Platinum is like how they kind of title the disc. It was interesting to note that during the extensive testing of the different Wii Wheel prototypes, the developers decided to have the voice actors play the game during recording sessions to try to make the reactions, specifically like the voiced me reactions, kind of seem more genuine. And then you also kind of add to the experience not only the music and the sound effects coming from the TV, but with the speaker on the Wii Remote, the oral experience is kind of, I don't know if you want to say enhanced, but kind of supplemented with the Wii Remote speaker also playing sound effects out of it and adding to that experience in some way.
I still to this day don't know if I like that feature or not.
Yeah, it's a low hertz and it just doesn't sound as good. It's a little rough.
But like there are some games that do like some really interesting stuff with it. At one point, I assume you turned it off.
Oh.
Did you ever turn it back on?
I don't think so. And it's a little weird to now hear this coming back in like the PlayStation 5, the DualSense controller. It's like, it's so minor that's not distracting like it was with the Wii Remote sounds where it was like really compressed and kind of crunchy. Like I remember in Brawl when you're selecting the characters when you're not playing on the GameCube controller, obviously, but you get little character sound effects that come through that. It's like, do we need this really?
Brawl was especially bad because they are super crunchy and not great. But like then you have stuff like I don't know, Shattered Memories, Silent Hill, where the phone calls are all in the Wii Remote. But yeah, no, I never turn it back on. Though I will say that because PS4 controllers can also do this, just they don't ever.
Oh right, yeah.
The only game that makes a good use of that is Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, where every once in a while King Kai will just shout, "Hey, how you doing?" like through your controller. Scares the hell out of you the first time. But yeah, weird feature that the Wiimote sort of introduced to the industry.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's get to talking about the 5 critical tracks for Mario Kart Wii and the substandard soundtrack that critics thought. But honestly, a lot of great tracks here. And let's get into the first one here. This is Title Theme. Just a classic theme that brings you right back to this game. When you boot the game up and you hit that splash title screen theme and it's just plays right there, gets right into it. This is a case where you can kind of hear how we've got good midis at the time, but we're still stuck in midis. We haven't made the full transition to like live recordings yet, as we would for Mario Kart 8 with the live recordings of instruments. So yeah, the piano sounds nice kind of later in the clip, but those sure are trumpet brass midis, and they're
sure are
okay, but you can definitely hear the limitations there. Still, it's a theme that takes me right back to playing this game, and I feel like for those that did, you're doing the same right now.
I've heard worse trumpet midis, I'll be fair. But yeah, I think this song's really catchy. And I feel like parts of this song come back in 8s. theme or something. One of the songs in 8 has like this song and some of the leitmotifs part of it in there because it sounds super familiar.
Or at least just like continuing the same kind of energy. Like they've captured a really good vibe here for, hey, welcome to Mario Kart. Let's get ready to have some fun.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and it also I don't know when the like jazz intro sort of started up, but this is this is a good version of that. Like I can see a clear point A to point B from here to Mario Kart 8's main theme.
For sure. And I'm totally here for it. Let's get to number 2 on the Critical 5, and I feel like this one also had to be included, right? This is Luigi's Circuit. On that Mario Kart Wii Platinum soundtrack, they actually have this song credited as Luigi Circuit / Mario Circuit because it actually plays in 2 tracks in Mario Kart Wii. Luigi Circuit is the first track in Mushroom Cup, the very basic first track, the first thing you're going to hear if you go in that order. But it also plays in Mario Circuit, which is the first track in Flower Cup, which is the second of the new tracks in the game. And boy, this sure does have the feel of like it's a beginner starter Mario Kart track theme. It seems pretty simple. The instruments are keeping it pretty light and easy. You're trying different kinds of synths here and there, but yeah, it's a single catchy melody to really, have the player learn the basics of driving a Mario Kart. Granted, if you haven't before, for those that are veterans, you're just like, oh yeah, this is easy, simple Mario Kart music. And with it appearing on 2 tracks here, not only is it such an important establishing theme for tracks in the game, but double the pleasure.
Also, the synths used in this song, they remind me of Luigi's Mansion. Some of the more synthy, some of EGAD's themes specifically.
Interesting.
They have that same sort of, the synths feel very similar to some of the stuff you get, some of the more electronic stuff you get in the original Luigi's Mansion. And I dig that a lot.
Kind of like the waviness of it, if anything. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. My favorite track from Mario Kart Wii, though, is number 3 here on the Critical 5, and it's Toad's Factory. While Toad's Factory is a pretty fun track overall, you got like the different direction arrows that can either speed you up or slow you down as the different presses are going in the factory. This is such a great track, and this is one that always brings me back also to driving in Mario Kart Wii. It's one of my favorite tracks in the game, and it starts really nice and bright as you're kind of introducing the start of the action, but then you get in the jazz piano here. The trumpets, again, being okay, passable trumpet midis. But then, yeah, you go into the jazz piano, you get some of the synths coming in, just a da-da-da-da-da-da-da, like a nice little swing melody. I really enjoy this one, and I feel like this is like Mario Kart Wii music at its best.
I've never heard this song before. I dig it a lot. Why isn't this in Mario Kart 8? Oh my god, I want to hear this orchestrated right now.
Oh, yes.
It's so good. Ah, man. Swing music in video games, always a welcome surprise. Always.
Yeah, I don't know if the swing jazz necessarily fits the track environment, but I am here for it always. And yeah, oh my gosh, that would be amazing to hear this reorchestrated. Number 4 on the Critical 5 actually got brought forward into Mario Kart 7. And let's get into some mall theming here. This is Coconut Mall. I feel like this track is a lot of people's favorites from this game, or at least they remember this track a whole lot. At least the music track, rather. People like racing on the track, but the music is also very memorable. Let's clear that up. So while Toad's Factory was the 4th track in Mushroom Cup, the first cup, Coconut Mall is the 2nd track in Flower Cup, the 2nd cup. And yeah, and this theme with really the piano driving it again, good sounding piano for the midis and all that, but dun, 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 dun. It's just a really infectious song, an infectious melody that'll really stick with you. They do a good thing here with the trumpets and make them muted, and it makes them sound more believable. Then you get to saxophones, and again, okay, pretty passable saxophone midis. Again, would be amazing to hear this, full blown reorchestrated with Mario Kart 8's, soundtrack budget and all that. But I feel like a very popular track in this game and a popular song to go with it.
Yeah, I'm pretty familiar with the song. I agree that I don't think I ever thought of this before, but yeah, no, if you put a mute on a quote unquote, put a mute on a bad trumpet MIDI, it makes it a little bit better. It turns out. That is completely right. Wow. Whenever I hear this song, I think about like the bonus round of a game show. Like that's the vibe it has, right?
Yes, yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I don't think it's one of my favorite. I think it's a little too hectic for my tastes, even though like I'm a fan of Baby Parks. So what am I talking about? But yeah, it's a good song.
Yeah, it is. And so then to wrap things up, what else could we have picked? Where else could we go? Number 5 on the Critical 5 for Mario Kart Wii is Rainbow Road. Oddly enough, for the Mario Kart Wii Platinum official soundtrack release, you'd think they'd like break down who had which track responsibility. No, they just say music by Asuka Ohta and Ryo Nagamatsu. And it's like, oh, okay, I wish we had a little more specific here, but when it comes to Rainbow Road, it's Rainbow Road, it's where you go when you die. But you know what? For the vibes you get, like all the stars kind of going by and just how like glittery and glisteny this Rainbow Road in particular on Wii, especially with how slippery it can be on bikes. I feel like the sound and the feel of this track is really appropriate. A good Rainbow Road mix here. It's brighter with like softer kind of tones in a way, but still has that intensity of like, it's a challenging track, like pay attention.
And I think it also seems to have some audio references to past Rainbow Road themes, I feel like. I don't know, something about like some of the melodies. There's also like pieces of Mario Galaxy in there, which is interesting to think about. I don't know, for some reason, it feels like I can hear different bits and pieces of the different Rainbow Road melodies that came before it. And I think that's really neat.
Yeah, it's a good little collection. I think it kind of rounds out the last track, the 4th track in Special Cup, the last of the new tracks of the game. I think it rounds that out well. Joe, let's get to talking about tracks on the cutting room floor, and you have 2. Hit me with them.
Why, I will. My first one is Moo Moo Meadows. This one is the second track in Mushroom Cup. I talked about this song back in Mario Kart 8, the Mario Kart 8 episode, because this is one of the tracks that was put forward and remixed and all that. And that version is still, like, amazing and the best version. But even in its original, like, state of, instead of it being a fiddle all the way through, like it's a pan flute at the start, that's really cool. I don't know, this is a really, really fun track, and it's super up my alley in terms of instrumentation.
It's so infectious, yeah, and as you had brought it to Mario Kart 8, it's like it's good to kind of hear the comparison here if you really want to go back and forth. Because, yeah, the MIDIs are trying their best here, but just, like, still held back from, like, those authentic performances.
Yeah, it's a shame, but it's still good here. Like, oh man, I love that song.
And a super fun track. I love racing on Moo Moo Meadows.
And the other one I had actually forgotten about until I went and took a look down this soundtrack to see if there was anything I'd put on the cutting room floor, and that's Wario's Gold Mine. This is the fourth track in Flower Cup. Hey, you all know why this is here. Banjo, baby.
Yeah!
I like me some banjo. Especially when it's accompanying your race through a mine that assuredly Wario is not paying any of those miners.
Poor Shy Guys.
I feel like I can confidently say that Wario does not pay a single one of those people. But no, this song it's hectic. It feels a lot like the same sort of vibe that I like from Baby Park, of the, like, things are happening on screen. And I don't know, I think the addition of a banjo is just a lot of fun. This is a fun song.
Especially when, like, the final lap, like, picks up the speed and intensity, and you have the whole thing of how there's different track variations for, like, if you were covered with ink and all that, or you're smaller with lightning. Like, there are just small little variations there. It's a fun thing about the soundtrack. But yeah, this is a great one. Another one that came forward to Mario Kart 8, and it's a good one to include from this game.
Yep, it's so good.
For me, a couple tracks come from the Special Cup just before Rainbow Road, and for me, one of them is Moonview Highway. So this track is the second track in the Special Cup, and it's like, what if we took Toad's Turnpike from Mario Kart 64 and gave it all the drugs, just make it more intense and more things to hit you. You get Moonview Highway, and the frenetic pace of this track really fits that. Like, you're having these little melodic runs here, and it's playing with all these synths here. It's a fun, energetic piece, but I feel like it was a good example of, like, we've done this kind of concept before in a track. Well, at least the concept of the racetrack. Let's bring it up to Wii a couple generations later, and let's see how the music can kind of follow along and try to evolve.
Feels like a Kirby song.
Sure.
I hear this, and I hear a Kirby boss battle song. Personally. Also, there's a point where the song decides to try and do a melodica, it sounds like. And that MIDI's rough, like really rough. But otherwise, no, I agree. This is a really fun, frantic, high-paced song. I like it. Though when I see the title Moonview Highway, I expected something a little more serene for some reason. And so loading up the video was just like, oh, that's not at all what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. No, it's interesting you make the Kirby comparison, because I think the dump 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 dump. That's, yeah, this feels like right out of the boss kind of theme there. That's really interesting. Nice pickup. The other one is a totally different vibe, but I think it fits just as well. This is Bowser's Castle. The third track in the Special Cup, Bowser's Castle's a tricky one. It's a fun track, but I love the music to it. I feel like it's a good example of like what happens when you make a Mario Kart piece dark, slow, sinister, and just really moody. You always think of Mario Kart just like happy little melody, happy melody playing, and it's like, nah, what if we just like dun, 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 dun. Like it's just kind of foreboding in that sense, and it's super cool, especially to race to. I feel like it's also interesting to note how people in the YouTube comments are pointing out how it shares very similar melodical structure to Maple Treeway, which is another track in Mario Kart Wii. And they're saying it's like, this is just Maple Treeway in a minor key. How have I never noticed? So maybe there was a little bit of recycling going on, because at least, it wasn't like a Luigi Circuit, Mario Circuit situation where it's like, just put the same track in both places, but maybe we just kind of riff on the melody a little bit and see how we can make it different. But I think, yeah, this one is super cool just for being so different.
This is the final dungeon music of a JRPG.
Yes, yes.
I was expecting, this is another one of those, like, that's not what I expected to hear when I clicked this link, because we're used to Bowser's Castle stages being, like, hard rock.
Yeah, shredding electric guitar, and yeah, why not?
Fire and lava and everything is burning and And this is basically like Bowser's giving his final monologue before the final boss starts. It's really weird and kind of jarring, but I like it.
So what will I never forget about Mario Kart Wii? It's a good game, at least it was at the time. I have not been back to it since. I was so thoroughly humiliated at Mario Kart Wii Online by one Grimace Doom Menace.
Damn it, thee, Matthew!
So, yeah, that happened. I raced Rosalina on a bike. I feel like if I had to say a main, I still continue with Rosalina to this day. But yeah, Rosalina on a bike was my character at the time. I don't know, it was a good, fun time, kind of the early days of Nintendo home consoles online.
I didn't own this as a kid. Just played it at a friend's house like one time. I believe I was very bad at it. I'm pretty fine at Mario Kart 8. I don't remember being very good at Mario Kart Wii. But I think for me, it just comes down to why are Birdo and Diddy and Funky not in the game? Why Pink Gold Peach before Funky Kong or Diddy Kong? Come on.
All good questions. That's for sure. Well, zombified characters in malls. It was honestly a good pairing between these two games, Dead Rising and Mario Kart Wii. Oh man, and fun soundtracks to listen to in a weird time in the mid to late 2000s. Xbox 360 and Nintendo Wii. That will do it for us this week on Original Soundchat. You can find me on Twitter at Pete Speakeasy. Joe is over at String Pixel. The video version of the show is on the Rhymes with Asia YouTube channel, but it's that MP3 podcast that you want, hosted by Anonymous Dinosaur at anondino.squarespace.com. That's where Joe's other podcast masterpieces that he hosts with the aforementioned Matt, the Mario Kart guru,
your nemesis?
my Mario Kart, let's just say Mario Kart nemesis in general, but especially on Wii.
Now we gotta all play Wii at some point on stream or something so that this grudge can be quashed.
That would mean booting up my Wii, and I don't know if it can do that.
Nah, we'd play Mario Kart 8. We're not going back to the Wii. The Wii is dead to us.
Yeah, and so he'll just brutally murder me then and I never play the game again. Cool. So smash your pieces. Go check out Joe's other podcast and also our podcast, Original Soundchat. So wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify even. We have a podcast feed where we have all the episodes, but we also have a Spotify playlist where if we talk about a video game track on this show and it's on Spotify, Joe goes on and adds it to this big monster playlist. Joe, what's being added this week?
Fly Routine and Gone Guru are the only songs from Dead Rising on Spotify. It's super weird, because like for the most part, Capcom has done really good at putting these soundtracks up on Spotify, but I guess it's probably something to do with the licensed tracks. If I had to give a hypothesis, Dead Rising is not among them. And obviously Mario Kart Wii, no, it's a first-party Nintendo game. That's not on Spotify.
What were we even thinking with that one? Anyway, when you're done listening, you can find the show on social media at Soundchat OST. Leave some feedback for us and suggestions. How are we doing with these episodes? And also, what would you like us to cover in the future on the show? Give us some games to recommend for us, because that's our big goal for the rest of 2021, and I think that's gonna continue in 2022.
Probably.
Just maybe. Joe, who are we talking about next week?
I will be talking about Miko Tarmiya.
I will be talking about Keisuke Ito. All right, to play us out, sometimes it's good to go back to old remix staples. These people who make remixes, fan covers, fan remixes for YouTube, OC Remix, wherever they put it on the internet. Good to go back to Insane in the Rain music. And he did a jazz arrangement of Coconut Mall. And, between his saxophone and piano playing and all that, it sounds so good, especially with live performed instruments. So please enjoy that. Thank you so much for listening this week on Original Sound Chat. We'll see you next time. Take care.